phone's ringing.
Hello?
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 Did someone write a letter to you or something?
Got some paperwork hand-delivered to me. And
Does Wendy know that? Is it involve Wendy?
No.
No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No. No, 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 no! 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 No!
So let me just talk to you later. And
Can you bring me my chapstick?
I know that, dude.
What is it? Is everyone's health okay?
Yes.
All right. Does it involve me?
Yes! Yeah! Yes!
so let's just find some time to talk to each other.
Can I ask you a question? Who is the paperwork sent from?
Fuck!
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Something that came hand to hand to me as I exited the building today.
Fuck!
Was it anonymous or?
Oh no, it's not anonymous.
I will find you.
Not anonymous. I just don't want to discuss it over the phone.
Okay.
Right, whatever it is.
Okay.
I wouldn't bother you, trust me.
Okay.
It's not so good.
You want me to come down to see you tomorrow? I actually have the day off.
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Whatever it is, I'll take a look at the paperwork.
Okay.
I hope it's not the IRS.
Fuck.
I just would like you to review it,
Okay.
okay?
You know how this is going to turn out, don't you?
So come down tomorrow. Dad leaves at 12.
Okay.
Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar.
Perfect. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everyone? That was, of course, from one of my favorite YouTube channels, the Society Page, doing a hilarious video. Does Wendy know? And that's really the question in this case, because we've watched so many people get prosecuted. So first, we watched the shooters get prosecuted, charged and prosecuted. Then we watched Katie go down. Then we watched Charlie go down. Now Donna arrested. Wendy's mother arrested in the airport, fleeing to Vietnam, one-way ticket to Vietnam. I mean, I don't know how she's going to defend that. That is, I think, one of the strongest pieces of evidence against her. She's created it. How do you come up with a defense? First, with the phone calls that were recorded to Charlie in jail, saying, I'm getting my affairs in order. And she had two options that she was considering. One was to end her life, and the other was to flee to a country that doesn't have an extradition agreement with the United States. So had she been successful, and she was trying to flee with Harvey, her husband, had she been successful, it would have been very hard to get her back to the United States to face trial. And I think she thought because it had a connecting flight that they wouldn't figure it out. They always think they're the smartest people in the room, this family. And it's pretty clear that they're not the smartest people in the room, and they aren't criminal masterminds, because it's very hard to commit murder and get away with it in this fashion, with this many people involved. And in this day and age, when everything is recorded and everything can be tracked, including your car, your text messages, and phone calls, wiretaps, all that comes into play in this case. And it's one of the things that makes it so fascinating. But here we have Wendi Adelson, who benefits the most from Dan Markel's death. And she's just walking around free as a bird. And when she was asked on the stand whether she feared being arrested in this case, she was like, I'm not sure if that was the question. I can't remember the question clearly, but boy, do I remember the answer. I'll never be arrested in this case, charged in this case. And it almost felt like a challenge. And that's something I think she enjoys. I think she enjoys letting people know that she did this and that you can't touch her. She's untouchable. She was so smart. She did it in such a way. Everyone's going down, even her own family members. And what's interesting in a family that is so tough like this, that's so cult-like, will they turn on each other? So Charlie is sitting in prison for life. Donna, I believe, will go the same way. Is someone going to turn? And Katie was probably the most disappointing part of the story. Her pro offer was the most disappointing part because she's still pretending like she didn't know anything about it. She didn't know that they were going to kill. They were talking about murder, at first and blah, blah. She's trying to protect some reputation that she's never had. Come out with it, Katie. Come out with the whole story. Everyone already knows that you took basically blood money and that money was more important to you than a father's life. And a really important part of the Tallahassee community and a really important part of the academic legal community. Dan Markel was a really important and beloved professor, So I thought we'd take a look today at Wendi Adelson's testimony in Katie's first trial. It's also Sigfredo's first trial. And of course, Katie got a hung jury. So I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, we are going to look at Wendy's amazing, forgetful testimony. The Society page has such a great video. It made me cry with laughter. I think it's called Wendi Adelson Doesn't Remember Anything. And it's a music video to her court appearance where she just doesn't, this court appearance particularly, that she doesn't remember anything at all. And it's incredible the things she says she doesn't remember and that she needs the actual documents to remember. So when we get back, we're going to take a look at this. I'll meet you on the other side of the break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So, Wendy has worn black every trial, black and gray. And always my first impression of her is just how everything seems to be so thought out in this. In her presentation, it seems rehearsed, practiced. She seems to know or can anticipate the questions that are about to be asked her. But you would think a lawyer would be
Good
more...
afternoon, Your Honor. It's John Lauro, Lauro, and I'm counsel for Ms. Adelson.
And it's my understanding that the state is requesting the court to compel Ms. Adelson's testimony. Is that correct, Ms. Captain?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And based upon that, Ms. Adelson, testimony you provide and anything derived from this testimony cannot be used against you, but you will be required to answer all relevant questions. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. Anything else you want to make?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
The rumor has it is that she was contacting a lawyer to talk about these issues of immunity. So they can't use this testimony and they can't investigate from this testimony. So they can't use this as a tipping off place to investigate anything else. But it's not a forthcoming testimony. But where it gets tricky for the state is they have to prove that Wendy didn't inspire their digging for some piece of evidence that they found should she ever be indicted and tried. Now, I think she could be prosecuted for this successfully, but I seem to be in the minority. I know his first name, Tim Jensen, is a YouTube lawyer, knows this case very well, and he argues passionately, of course he's a defense lawyer, that she can't be prosecuted because you can't prove that she put this into action. But I have not studied conspiracy laws, but I think you could make a case that she was a conspirator. But it would be a very long, I would think a very long trial where you'd have to have a lot of witnesses and recreate the atmosphere and the events that were going on at the time. So let us go back and do a summary of what was going on. Dan Markel was threatening her mother legally, saying, I want Donna Adelson to only have supervised visitation with my children. And he was also asking the court to censure Wendy's law license, or censure her, and that would possibly lead to Wendy having her law license taken away. Two humiliating things for the Adelsons. So let us take a look.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
So it's not just a case about relocation and custody. It's much, in my view, it's much deeper and much richer. This is really about a family obsessed with revenge that needs to win in all cases. And that's why I find it so interesting. Are any of the Adelsons going to turn on each other? No honor among thieves.
The cemetery, please.
I just get an estimate on the time so I can know what
I think she said about 45 minutes.
would we then break after theirs and use a cross for Tuesday?
No.
How are you employed, Ms. Adelson?
I'm an attorney.
All right. And do you know?
Microphone up just a little bit, if you would, please, ma'am. All right.
I'm an attorney.
All right. How were you employed back in 2014?
I was employed at FSU Law School.
Okay. And were you a member of the Florida Bar at that time?
I was.
All right. And did you know Dan Markel?
Yes, I did.
How did you know Mr. Markel?
He was my husband.
When did you meet him?
We met in 2000.
What? He was my husband? How could you ask me such a stupid question? So a little bit of snark there from Wendi.
4.
Okay. And when did you marry?
We married in 2006.
Did you ever live in Tallahassee?
I did live in Tallahassee.
When did you first move to Tallahassee?
We moved to Tallahassee in the fall, August of 2005, and we lived in Tallahassee that academic year, so from 2005 until the summer of 2006, and then we spent a year living in Miami from 2006 to 2007, and then I lived back in Tallahassee from 2007 to 2014.
Why did you move to Tallahassee the first time?
The first time we moved to Tallahassee for Danny's job. He got a job at FSU Law School.
All right. And what about the second time?
And the second time we moved back to Tallahassee because he had tried to get a job at University of Miami Law School and it didn't work out.
All right.
She loves that. That's maybe the only time Dan Markel had ever failed at anything in his life. Harvard, undergrad, Harvard Law School, accolades after accolades, famous prof blog, beloved. So the one job he didn't get, she loves to talk about that.
So both times it was for his employment?
Yes,
Okay. Did you like living in Tallahassee?
I did.
All right. And did you live on Trescott Drive?
We did. That was our home.
And where are you from, Ms. Adelson?
I'm from Broward County originally.
Okay. And do you have family members in Broward currently?
I have one family member in Broward.
Where do you live currently? Or you can just tell us.
I live in Miami-Dade County.
And what about your parents? Where do they live?
They currently live in Miami-Dade County.
All right. And what about your brother, Charles Adelson?
He lives in Broward County.
And do you have any children?
I do.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
What are their ages?
They are 10 and 8, turning 9 soon.
Okay. Both boys?
Both boys.
And both the biological children of Dan Markel?
Yes.
How are your family members employed, specifically your parents and your brother?
My mom is not currently working very much. She helps out with my dad's office. My dad is a dentist, and my brother Charlie is a periodontist.
Wow, how the mighty have fallen. So currently the dental office has been closed for the last several years. Her mother has been arrested fleeing the country, the one-way ticket to Vietnam with her dad. Last we saw her, she was in what's called a Ferguson gown, which is a it's a harm prevention device, and you're naked under it, and it would mean that she is on a watch so that she doesn't hurt herself or do the worst. And she's not allowed toilet paper in her cell. And according to Charlie in the wiretaps and Jeff Lacasse with his Wendy's had issues with her stomach, diarrhea when she gets really upset and nervous. And I would think that Donna is sitting in prison or jail right now, having these issues with no toilet paper handy. Boy, that must be fun. But I save my sympathy for the Markel family. You know, she made her bed.
And does your family have a dental practice in South Florida
They do.
that they own and operate?
They do.
Is your family in South Florida wealthy? And that's a relative term.
Are you asking me to speculate?
No, I'm asking if they're wealthy. You may, if you don't know, you say you don't know.
It depends how you define wealthy.
Okay. Are they millionaires?
No.
When did you separate from Mr. Markel?
We separated in the fall of 2012.
And was part of the reason for your disagreement or separation having to do with how to raise the children in terms of your faith?
Yes, we had different ways of practicing our faith.
Okay.
This is the kind of thing I love. When I practice my faith by actually not really practicing the faith too much. Dan Markel was an observant Jew. He was dedicated to his and a real believer in his religion and his culture, and he wanted his children to be raised in it. And there was one thing I noticed in her interrogation when she's talking about seeing Danny on the one day eating at Whole Foods. She was going to take her two little boys to Whole Foods to get something to eat, and she saw Danny sitting there eating, and she instead took them to a burger joint. And that is, of course, if you have a cheeseburger, it's not kosher. She didn't say what she said, but it sparked a memory of my interview with Ruth Markel, and of course, I believe it's in her book, where she talks about Donna and Wendy feeding, especially Donna, feeding the children non-kosher food behind Dan's back. And I remember I grew up with a girl in my elementary school class who was a product of divorce, and the father was vegetarian and the mother wasn't, and she was being snuck meat by the mother all the time and sneaking meat around, and it's a really uncomfortable situation for the children. Now, I don't know if they were old enough now to fully grasp it, but what a horrible thing to do. But yeah, so she's going to try to present herself as religiously observant, something I've never heard about Wendy.
Do you know when you filed for divorce?
I believe it was the fall of 2012.
Okay, 9/10/2012 sound right to you?
That sounds right.
And when you separated initially in the fall of 2012, did you move to South Florida with the kids?
No, I did not.
You didn't go to South Florida with the kids?
No, I did not.
Was it your desire during that time to move with the children to South Florida?
I would say right then, no, it wasn't.
Are you familiar with a court order ordering you to come back to Tallahassee from South Florida?
I'm not familiar with that.
When you moved out from the marital home there on Trescott Drive, you lived at another residence in Tallahassee, is that correct?
I did.
And do you recall the address there?
I do.
She recalls the address that she used to live at, but not the court order that demanded that she return to Tallahassee with the children. So Danny was accusing her of basically kidnapping the children. It's absurd, this stuff, what she chooses to say she remembers and what she chooses to forget. And of course, lawyers will often advise you when it doesn't look good for you to just say you don't remember because you can't be prosecuted for having a bad memory. There's no law against having a bad memory, but there is a law against perjury. But here, Wendy's supposed to be testifying truthfully, and she has an immunity deal. So this is really about just winning against the prosecution and being defiant, because they can't use any of this testimony. And she should be. It's telling in that she's so evasive and, in my opinion, untruthful, in that these are the trial of the middle woman and the shooter. And she should want to give as much information as she can. That's another reason why people think Wendy's guilty, is that she spoke to the police for a long time. I'll give her that. 5.5 hours or 5.25 hours, something to that effect. And then she hightailed that out of there and never made contact with the police again, was never helpful to the investigation again. And when I hear about the oldest brother, who's estranged from the family, he was obsessed with who killed Dan Markel in a way that none of the other family members were.
3303 Aqua Ridge Way.
Okay. And was there a time during the time that you were living there at Aqua Ridge that you determined that you would like to move to South Florida with the children?
There was.
All right. And were your parents very involved in trying to facilitate that relocation?
My parents were supportive of me moving to South Florida.
Would you describe your parents as being over involved in your personal business?
As compared to other people's parents?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I keep my head to the side and my eyes wide open, do I look like I'm more trustworthy then? I don't know. Am I relatable and trustworthy to the jury? I don't know. I'm just, this is the kind of attitude you have when your husband's been brutally murdered and you're on trial, when they're trying to convict the middle woman and the shooter. What a weird effect she has. And I've never seen any other widow with this kind. I mean, Dan was her ex-husband, but still. Never seen anyone who's had their loved ones be killed on the stand with this kind of effect. Have you guys? I'm going to take a quick break. When I get back from the break, I'm going to go through your comments. Stay tuned. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. I have been getting the best comments on this case. So starting with this one, have to admit that seeing, this is from MW/KL5D1, DI, excuse me, have to admit that seeing Donna in that outfit, I think she means the Ferguson gown, and the horrible conditions of that prison has made me feel some sympathy for her. And right under it, La Chola 1647 says, my sympathy will always be for all the children in this crime. The adult behavior is unfathomable. So I think La Chola means Wendy's boys. Are there other children that I'm not thinking of? Stephanie Ray 444 says, Sammy, this is the undercover that performed the bump. So he gave the undercover cop, they wanted to get the Adelson family talking, so they put in an undercover cop to approach Donna on the street with a picture of Dan, the number amount, $5,000, and a phone number. And he spoke with her for a little bit. I think you saw it in the great opening by the Society page. Sammy, so that's the undercover officer, might not have been convincing to you, but he sure got the Adelsons talking and broke this case wide open. Of course, a guilty conscience is paranoid. True, I just think that the ultimate goal would have been to get one of the Adelsons to pay up the $5,000. That would have been a great piece of evidence. But you're right, Stephanie Ray. They sure did get a lot of great stuff on the wiretaps and the undercover cameras, the Dolce. Is that right? Am I thinking Dolce, right? The Dolce Vita undercover video. Those audio tapes were great. This last comment is so long, I had to put it into 3 little comments. This is from Shanty. QR3KY says, this is karmic on so many levels. I will list 2 number ones. 1, Dan loved the law, and now the law is loving him back. It seems as if Dan, so this is about Donna's indictment, and now the law is loving him back. It seems as if Dan is guiding the prosecution throughout the investigations, trials, etc. It's a nice way of looking at it. And this is also number 1. The kids are now of an age to understand that these monsters killed their father and have been brainwashing them all these years. It's karmic because of the timing of Charlie's conviction and Donna's arrest. If the kids were younger, they may have believed all the brainwashing. 2, Donna, Charlie, Wendy, who killed Dan to get away from Tallahassee, are now all going back to the same place, but now as murderers and in total disgrace. True. Going on. 3, it's karmic because all the money is now going towards legal fees and Charlie to get protection in prison. It's karmic that these monsters are brainwashing themselves with their own narcissism and don't seem to understand that normal people exist who have common sense, like the jurors who use logic, common sense, and the evidence to convict Charlie. It's karmic that the only juror who might have caused a mistrial was not chosen to deliberate the verdict, right? I think that too. Even after the verdict, this jury still tried to get a mistrial. It's karmic. Of course, that's the juror who complained about the group chat of the jury that he wasn't part of. 5, it's karmic because all these monsters did murdering Dan, changing the kid's name, brainwashing the kids. These kids, okay. We'll end up with the Markels and we'll know the truth. It's karmic for the other son, Robert, the oldest, who moved away with his wife, because now that we know how evil these people are, who knows what they might have done to his wife. It will be karmic when Wendy, one way or another, will be charged for the murder of Dan. Whether it's for the murder or wrongful death, she will end up in court. Great point. So she might be tried civilly by the Markels for wrongful death. And that would be for a money judgment. And of course, in our civil courts, the bar for evidence is much lower than in our criminal courts. I still think that we could, I still think it would be a long trial. It would be a difficult trial to prosecute, but I still think they could get a conviction. That's where I stand. Maybe I'm a hopeless optimist. So now we're back to Wendy's testimony, Adelson testimony in, of course, the trial of Sigfredo Garcia and Katie Magbanoa.
What was the child custody schedule when you were living at Aqua Ridge? And I assume Mr. Markel continued to live in the marital home on Trescott?
He did.
Okay, what was the custody situation with the kids?
So the custody situation changed over time and depending on the part of the year. But I think in the beginning, we would do a Wednesday night overnight. It was about 50-50 shared custody, but I don't remember the exact arrangement. I do remember in the summertime, it would switch to week on, week off, but during the school year, it was slightly different.
So still 50-50, but not necessarily every other week. It was mixed up within the week.
It was.
Okay. And you mentioned that you did develop a desire to move to South Florida. Did you file a motion to that effect on January 14th, 2013?
That sounds, I did file a motion. I don't remember the exact date.
Okay.
But that sounds about right.
All right. And in that motion, did you make some allegations that Mr. Markel was making things difficult for you at work?
I did.
Okay. And was that motion granted or denied?
That motion was denied.
All right. Denied with prejudice?
I don't remember.
Okay.
If you have it, I'm happy to take a look.
Okay.
So next trial, which was Katie's trial, of course, you got a hung jury here. Georgia Kappelman knew what to expect. She knew to have every single piece of evidence handy because she was ready for Wendy not to remember anything. And so you'll see in Charlie's trial, the big folder comes out, and in Katie's trial, the big folder comes out and she's looking at stuff. Pretty much Georgia is showing her every piece of evidence that she doesn't remember or close to it.
But in any event, you were not able to move at that time.
I did not move.
And were you upset about being stuck in Tallahassee?
I was relieved.
You were relieved. You wanted to stay in Tallahassee.
I was happy at my job.
Okay. Do you recall when your divorce to Mr. Markel became final?
The summer of 2013.
Okay. July 31st sound about right?
That sounds right.
Okay. Would you consider your divorce with Mr. Markel to be a nasty divorce?
I think most divorces aren't very pleasant.
Okay, but this one was like really unpleasant, right?
I found getting divorced to be unpleasant, yes.
And
so she's being evasive here. So she's saying, did you have a nasty divorce where both of you got vicious? And she's saying, well, I found the process of getting divorced unpleasant. No one likes, so how relatable, Wendy. Everybody feels that way. Oh, Wendy, you're so relatable. That's what she hopes the jury thinks when she answers like that. But so she's trying to avoid how vicious this divorce was, because of course it gives her motive.
in the litigation that ensued between the two of you, you guys argued over things as small as a tennis racket. I noticed in one pleading.
I don't remember that.
Did he threaten to press kidnapping charges against you?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I don't remember that. No.
So, Wendy, the tennis racket's feelings are very hurt that you don't remember your old friend, the tennis racket that you fought for in your legal filings. And she doesn't remember being charged with kidnapping. This is nuts.
Did he threaten to go after your law license? Remember that?
I don't remember that, no.
Do you remember him saying you failed to disclose a bunch of assets in the divorce process?
I do remember that.
Okay. Did you guys have any mediations as part of your divorce?
We did have mediations leading up to settlement.
2 8-hour mediations, correct?
I don't remember how long they were, but they seemed very long.
Yeah. And they both did not result in a resolution.
They did not.
All right. But you did reach a settlement, I think, kind of just on the eve of a trial on the matter, correct?
That sounds right.
Do you remember this motion that was filed by your deceased ex-husband on March 26, 2014, involving, among other things, that had to do with your mother, an allegation that your mother was disparaging the children? I'm sorry.
Overruled.
Disparaging him to the children is what I meant to say. Are you familiar with that pleading?
I am familiar with that pleading.
All right. And in that pleading, did he allege that you were depriving him of physical access to the children?
I don't remember the specifics.
Do you recall whether he was complaining about you refusing to communicate with him about right of first refusal to the children during your time with them?
I know he was frustrated about the Skyping.
Lack of communication via Skype.
It's hard to Skype with 2 toddlers, yes.
All right. And in that motion.
That's interesting that she says that, because Dan's new girlfriend, the NYU professor, who's beautiful, stunner, must have been very threatening for Wendy. She was Skyping with the children. I mean, it's just there's so many things that point to Wendy in this. The fact that Katie, when the shooter, who was Katie's ex-husband, the middle woman, when she heard from the shooter that the job had been done, Katie, the middle woman, said, "I know." And the only way she could have heard that is from Charlie. And the only way Charlie could have known was from Wendy. And we can look at that in a bit. It's in actually the whole series of phone calls is in Donna's arrest warrant.
Do you recall him being upset about an allegation that you let the kids eat non-kosher foods?
I remember him being upset about that in general, but I don't remember whether it was an emotion or not.
What does that mean, non-kosher foods?
So kosher rules have to do with the separation of milk and meat.
Wait, what does that? I don't even understand that answer. So she remembers Danny being upset, but she doesn't remember it as an emotion. So she remembers him confronting her, but she doesn't remember Dan's emotions with it. Maybe you can explain that to me. I don't even understand that answer, but maybe I missed something there.
Dairy and meat. So non-kosher foods would be meat that hasn't been killed in a way that conforms with Jewish law, or the mixing of the two.
And is observing those types of eating habits something that's important to you?
It is not important to me.
And was it something that was important to Dan Markel?
It was important to Danny.
And it was important to him that the children observed that way of eating, correct?
It was.
So when Dan Markel came to his own wedding, the food wasn't kosher. It's so aggressive and it's so emblematic of the Adelson family, the way they want something done, they will push it through, get it done, and they will gloat that they won. They made it a competition, the food a competition at the wedding. So Wendy got her dream wedding with non-kosher food. And the rabbi was so disgusted, he left. And Dan Markel It wasn't so much, of course, he wanted to eat at his own wedding, but it wasn't so much that he wanted the rabbi to be comfortable at his wedding. That's according to his friends.
And in that motion, did he seek to restrict your mother's contact with the kids to supervised visits only?
I don't remember, but if you'd like to show me the motion, I can take a look.
Okay, but you don't remember that portion?
No.
All right. Do you remember the allegation that your mother made statements to the children that grandma hates you? Grandma says you're stupid. Your father is trying to take my sunshines away. Anything like that? Do you recall?
No, but again, I'm happy to look at it if you'd like to show me.
I understand. Do you recall that Mr. Markel was seeking sanctions against you personally in that motion?
I don't remember that.
Do you know whether
You know, Scientologists are trained to do this, to have no emotional reaction to questions and to be able to stare people in the eyes. So maybe Wendy really missed her calling as a devoted Scientologist. That's what she's reminding me of here.
this would have been a motion that you would have shown to your mother? Would she have been aware of it?
I probably would have shown my mom the motion.
Is it fair to say that your parents are very protective of you?
I think that's fair to say.
Is it fair to say that your brother is very protective of you?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay. What about Dan Markel? Did your family like him?
Do you want to specify a point in time?
Well, I'm specifically thinking of a statement you made in the interview after his death, where you indicated that your parents were very angry with him. Is that accurate?
At that point in time, during our divorce, I do think they were angry with him. They felt like he had treated me badly.
Isn't that interesting? Because last trial, we got the banana bread story that Donna was hugging him and making him banana bread. I wonder how much banana bread Donna is eating now. So I feel, as many people felt when they heard Wendy tell that story in her brother's trial, that it was a wholly made up story.
And the motion to preclude your mom from having unsupervised contact with your kids, that was still pending at the time of his murder, correct?
That's possible. I mean, I don't think anyone took that motion very seriously.
Okay. Did your mom take it seriously?
I don't think so.
Did Dan Markel take it seriously?
I don't know how Danny felt about a motion. If he wrote the motion, he was probably taking it seriously.
Yeah, finally an honest answer there. But so that's just another way to disparage Dan Markel, to say his filings were so laughable that we were all just totally unworried about them. And of course, it's strategic to make her look less involved, have less of a stake, have less of a motive. But really, at the root of it, it's a dig at Dan. Oh, yeah, his filings were so laughable. And she loves to talk about the one time he was admonished by the judge for his lengthy filings.
I want to approach with some emails. Have you had an opportunity to review State's Exhibit 80?
Donna, could I see what the State's Exhibit 80 is? Donna, and I don't know if you want to do it now or I'm going to request a sidebar on this.
What's that?
I'm going to request a sidebar on this.
The letter of intent first.
This is State's Exhibit 80. Just take a moment and flip through, make sure this is the exhibit you reviewed previously.
I've been shown these exhibits.
Okay. And are these exhibits fair and accurate copies of emails between yourself and your mother, Donna Adelson?
They are.
And the email addresses on this exhibit, donnaharvey@gmail.com. Whose address is that?
My parents have a joint email address.
Okay, but you were communicating with one of them in
whoever signed the email, but it could be from either or both of them.
Okay, either could have used it, but we can deduce from who signed it who this one was from.
That sounds right.
Okay, and Wendi Adelson at gmail.com, is that you?
That is me.
All right, Judge, at this time I asked him if any evidence to exhibit.
We'll go sidebar. Person actually testifying, but there are a whole bunch of exceptions to that. And one of the exceptions to that is when it's not being offered to prove that what's said is true, but simply to show that it has been said because there's some relevance to the fact that these statements were made. So I am not offering these statements to show they're true. These persons, I mean, obviously, Mr. Markle can't be here for us to have cross-examination of him. We don't anticipate that the other Miss Adelson will be here as a witness. We can't test. The attorneys will not be able to test that to see whether that's true or not, but I am allowing it for limited purposes to show state of mind of these persons. So you may proceed, Ms. Kappelman.
Yes, Your Honor. I noticed in the emails that your mother referring to, who I think is Dan Markel, as Jibbers. What does that mean?
Jibbers was a nickname that I gave Danny when he was being really difficult and causing me a lot of pain. Was sort of a nickname I gave him to make him feel less threatening.
So
this is Wendy, the victim. And she can only deal with Dan, her ex-husband, if she gives him a nickname to make him feel less threatening, because he victimized her so much, so abusive. I mean, this is absurd. And just a reminder that Wendy, he begged her to not divorce him. Kind of odd for someone so into power and control. And then Wendy left him when he was on a business trip in New York and took all the furniture, everything in the house, save clothes that the children had outgrown. So my father experienced this in his life. His mother, my grandmother's second husband, wanted her out and took he came home from school one day and there was no furniture. Everything was gone. And he actually came home before his mother. So he said to Mom, "Hey, what's up?" Like, just sort of made a joke about it, but it haunted him. It was traumatic his whole life. He never forgot it. So it'll tell you something about Wendy, that she's willing to traumatize her kids by making them take part in that. Pack up all your, how did all our stuff get to this new place? What? You're not leaving anything in the old place? What? Even if she shielded them somewhat, which I don't think she did, it's always about her, not Mother of the Year. And you can see Donna does a lot of the heavy lifting with the parenting.
it was a derogatory thing.
I wouldn't say it was derogatory.
Did you call him that to his face?
No, I called him Danny to his face.
Okay.
And Jibbers would be what? How would you spell that?
I don't know that I ever spelled it out. In the emails, I think it's spelled with a J, but I guess you could spell it with a G.
Jibbers.
That would be one way to.
Ms. Adelson, you had Mr. Markel's phone number programmed into your phone as Jibbers, didn't you?
That's right.
Caught in a lie. I don't think I've ever spelled it out. Great, quick thinking by Georgia Kappelman. Oh, well, maybe you spelled it out when you put it in your phone, programmed it into your phone. And if she had been Charlie, she would have said, Charlie always thought up another lie on the fly. Like, well, I'm not good with technology, so I had so-and-so do it for me, program all my numbers in or something. But she just looks straight in the face, Georgia Cappleman, straight in the face. And it's like, yeah, I'm committing perjury. Yeah, I'm lying to the court, lying in court. I'm lying to the jury. Yeah, I'm a lawyer. What are you going to do about it? With her mouth slightly open, her eyes wide open, and no longer is the head tilted to the side, straight on. It's a challenge. Talk about passive aggressive.
Do you know much about your brother Charles Adelson's business practices?
I know that he does implant surgery.
Do you know anything about whether he offers discounts?
I know he has something to do with teeth. My brother, something like that. He's some kind of in the medical field, operating, doing something in the mouth. What kind of answer is that? No, he does something with him. He's your brother. You're very close, Wendy. So she's not really all there right now. You can see her. You could actually see her chest rise and fall quite dramatically right after that lie. She felt that in her. Not that, I don't know. She was exposed as a liar. She didn't like it. So she's not really all there thinking about it now. But it won't last long. She'll be back to her old, unbelievable answered self soon. I guess herself with the unbelievable answers. That's a better way to put it. Yeah, real soon in this testimony.
For cash or does a lot of business in cash?
I have no idea.
Do you know if there's a safe in your parents' house that has stacks of cash inside?
I don't know about a safe with stacks of cash.
So you don't have a stack of cash in your parents' safe that's Wendy's stack?
No.
Okay. Did Charlie Adelson like Dan Markel? And again, I'm referring to the time frame before his death.
I mean, I think he was also, he would listen to me when I would tell him about things I was upset about at the time with the divorce. So whether he liked him or didn't like him, he certainly was supportive of me.
Okay, but he never expressed any dislike?
No.
Did he mention hiring a hitman to kill your husband?
Objection, hearsay.
No.
And I was thinking about how you would build a case against Wendy. So, of course, you have her in the owl shirt. You have her odd reaction afterwards. I'm not sure if they can use the interrogation against her, but she wasn't Mirandized. She was just a witness at that point. I would think not. But it is, of course, brought up in this questioning because, of course, she's been given immunity and she's just a witness. But her take on Ruth Markel getting kind of an emergency plan in place should Wendy ever be arrested, that gave Wendy the green light to withhold, to never let her kids ever see the Markels until it came time for court, when she knew she was going to be asked questions about it. And then, of course, she let their grandparents, their paternal grandparents, visit with her kids. She set up Jeff Lacasse. The whole thing was setting up Jeff Lacasse as the fall guy. She told Jeff Lacasse that her brother looked into hiring a hitman and how much it would cost, either $15,000 or $50,000. He wasn't sure on the price amount. She changed her Facebook photo the night before. No one in the family remembers what this big gift was, and it was suggested in Charlie's trial that Dad's big gift wasn't, in fact, Dan Markel's murder. it was the paella at his dinner party. Come on. That's really hard to believe.
Did he ever joke about he looked into hiring a hitman, but buying you a TV as a divorce present would be cheaper?
He did make that joke. He tended to repeat himself, and sometimes he would make jokes that weren't very funny about all kinds of things.
All right.
And strangely, Wendy told that joke to the Geek Squad, who were her alibi, the TV repairman. And of course, there's a whole issue with the TV. And if you look at the TV and the TV repair as a code word for Dan Markel's hit, or the hit on Dan Markel, better way to put it, it really makes her look involved. So Jeff Lacasse is the most important witness, and you understand why Wendy and Charlie disparage him so much and claim he's making up all these lies, because he's devastating for both of them and Donna.
Was that TV, did he buy you a TV as a divorce present?
He did.
And was that TV the same TV that was being repaired at your residence at the time that your husband was murdered?
It was.
Who made the arrangements for that TV repair?
I did.
Your mom didn't make those arrangements?
I don't believe so.
And the repairman was at your house that.
So I believe it's come out that her mom did make those arrangements, and she testified in Charlie's trial that her mom made those arrangements because she's the one who bought the TV. And the TV was in her name. So she bought the TV. Charlie gave her the money to buy the TV. See how it makes them all look involved? Then it ends up with Wendy, and then Wendy purposely breaks the TV. According to Jeff Lacasse, he looked at the TV and it looked like something heavy had been taken to the screen. And then Wendy insisted that they all watch a movie on the broken TV as a gift night to the kids. Come on. Have her defend these actions. Let's hear how the TV broke and why you needed it repaired and why then. And of course, the shooters rented the same make and the same model of car that Jeff Lacasse drove on their first attempt of the hit. And the second attempt, I would think that they couldn't get a hold of that kind, and got one close, which is a Prius. And had Jeff Lacasse not left early for his trip, he would have been seen driving right by the house right after the hit. What a perfect fall guy. He was just so upset that I had broken up with him. And that the fact that Jeff Lacasse thought she was dragging on the relationship when she was clearly over it, and he couldn't think of a reason. She was very nervous that on the first time the hit was supposed to happen during that whole week, and he would see her crying. There's a lot of little things against Wendy. I really encourage you all to listen to my interview with former Deputy DA John Lewin, prosecutor. I think he's still a deputy DA. He's just not in cold cases. He's been demoted thanks to speaking out against George Gascon's pro-criminal policies. But listen to him. He's never lost a cold case. He tries the hardest cases, the cases where the defense is arguing that the person isn't even deceased, that they're still walking around somewhere. What he said is you have to really recreate the whole story for the jury so they can see the significance of the owl shirt, that an owl was put up by the shooter on his Facebook after the hit was done, and Katie told him to take it down, and that his nickname means Al, one of the shooters. Of course, she shows up in an Al shirt after buying bullet bourbon for a Stock the Bar party. All these little things add up for a jury. That's why circumstantial evidence is such good evidence. It's because it all interconnects and it's very hard to defend it. So maybe you can defend and make up a story for one piece, but look at Charlie's trial. He thought he had a great, all-encompassing theory to put out for the jury. The truth. He kept saying, this is the truth. I don't know how extortions aren't done, but mine was done on a payment plan. So laughable.
That morning.
But that's what makes it so hard, is because why is he buying Katie vacations and gifts afterwards, after they broke up? Jurors are interested in those little details. Not one alone means guilt, but all together it creates a compelling case of guilt.
That your husband died between 8:30 and 9:15. Do you agree with that?
I remember he was supposed to come between 8 and noon, and then he ended up coming on the early side.
That's when he arrived, between 8:30 and 9:15.
It's my best recollection.
Did Charlie ever say that he considered all possible options to take care of the problem being Dan Markel?
Objection, hearsay, and
Oh.
Your Honor, I just have a standing objection, so I don't keep
You bet.
interrupting.
Did he ever say that?
No.
After the murder of Mr. Markel, did Charlie Adelson take you out for a celebration dinner?
No.
Do you recall any dinner where shortly after Mr. Markel's death where you were with Mr. Charlie Adelson and vomited?
I do remember that dinner. I'm sorry?
Go ahead, I interrupted you.
After Danny died, I was terrified that someone was going to come after me or my children and harm us as well. And so I didn't leave my house for about a month. And when I finally felt ready to leave the house and have dinner, I told my brother that I wanted to have dinner, that I was ready to finally go to a restaurant and eat a meal again. And I'd barely eaten for a full month, just out of grief and shock. And so that night when I finally ate for the first time, they ended up taking a while before they sat us, and they sat us at the bar, and I had a drink, and I wasn't used to eating anything or drinking alcohol, and I threw up at the table. The only time in my life I've done something like that, but it was certainly not a celebration.
And you never heard your brother refer to it in that way?
No.
So it looks like Wendi is trying to produce some tears here. And I wonder if she can cry on cue. I also wonder if the hysterical crying that Jeff Lacasse describes was her practicing for her police interview. But here she's trying to get the wobbly voice going, but that comes from having uneven breath, which her breath is fine. She seems cool as a cucumber. And she was so upset she couldn't eat after Dan Markel's murder, but she could call his insurance company and find out if she was on his life insurance. Find out all about his life insurance policy the day after his murder. That doesn't sound like someone who's not eating and isn't blinded by grief. And she could make a whole podcast about it. Also doesn't sound like someone coming from a traumatized state, post-traumatic stress type state.
Were you involved in any way in a plot to kill Dan Markel?
No.
Do you have any knowledge other than the statements you said your brother made or the jokes your brother made? Do you have any knowledge of anyone being involved in a plot to kill your husband?
No.
Do you know Catherine Magbanwa?
I have met her before.
How do you know her?
We met one time at dinner when I came home and my brother introduced me to her. And I think we might have gone to the beach once with her and a friend for a few hours.
I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 36. Is that a photograph of you and Catherine that came out at the beach?
With her friend, yes.
Okay, and do you remember the friend's name?
I don't.
All right, is this a fair and accurate photograph from that event?
That looks like the three of us at the beach, yes.
Do you recall when this was taken?
I don't.
Okay, does Father's Day weekend 2014 sound correct?
So June 2014, that's
Yes, ma'am.
possible.
So I am mesmerized by Wendy's nose. And it looks to me like she has had her nose straightened and done. And it looks like her mother, to my eye, Donna, has also had her nose straightened and done. And of course, being Jewish, and of course, as you know, I'm Jewish, it's a sensitive topic, right? So when you see anti-Semitic cartoons, you will see the nose exaggerated. And I bring it up because I just think it's so interesting. Is this to look less ethnic or is it just to look more beautiful? But I'm just very interested that Donna, when she wanted to punish Dan because he was such an observant Jew and he felt his religion so deeply and practiced it with such intensity, that she suggested that Wendi say that she had the kids baptized Catholic as a threat, like if this will go on, and dress them up in Nazi uniforms. And to Wendy's credit, she never did it. But to my mind, it seems very self-hating to think up those things as punishment as a Jew yourself. Let me know what you think. So the behavioral panel did a episode on Wendi, and I have never seen so much hedging in my entire life. They should have called that episode "Don't Sue Me, Wendi," because they either pull out like 57 things her body language could mean. Like they give you a list. I was like, what is this? A menu? I could just like pick and choose what I want to put to get what I think it could be most. Aren't you supposed to tell me? And then they say, well, it could be this or it could be that. I don't really know the case. And isn't that the point of behavioral analysis? That you don't need to know the case, that you're analyzing just on behavior and picking up on it. I mean, you wouldn't have to know it intimately. They knew the story, right? She was the ex-wife of the husband who was murdered. What more do you need to know if you're analyzing behavior? I was super disappointed in that episode, but I'm curious to know what other people thought who saw it.
All right, would it refresh your memory to look at the data associated with that photograph?
Sure.
Take a look at this top block there that references this photo. Tell me if you can advise when the photo was taken.
It looks like it was taken on June 15th, 2014.
All right, and do you know where the photo was taken?
I think that's South Beach.
Close to where your parents were living in a condo?
Yes.
So a month, little more than a month before the murder. So the murder happened on July 18th, 2014. Wendi is hanging out with the middle woman who's now convicted, doing a life sentence, and her brother Charlie, the maestro of this plot, and hanging out on the beach. Interesting.
And did you say how you know Ms. Magbanua?
She was dating my brother.
So this time I asked her to do 636.
Is there objection?
None from Mr. Garcia.
None from Ms. Magbanua, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
So which one is you?
I'm the one in the middle.
And which one's Ms. Magbanua?
The one on the left-hand side to the right of me in the photo.
And this one's her friend?
Yes.
Ms. Magbanua's friend.
Yes.
Approach and show you one more photo. This is photo 37. Recognize this photo?
I don't recognize that photo, but I recognize the people in it.
Okay, who's in it?
That's my brother, and I think that's Katie.
All right, is Katie Catherine Magbanua?
Yes.
This is a very accurate photo of the two of them when, I guess, during the time of their dating.
That looks right.
Judge, at this time I'd ask to move to 637.
Is there objection?
Yes, Your Honor, this witness is not able to properly authenticate that picture in terms of when it was taken and where it was taken. So I would object.
Sustained.
Your brother dated Catherine Magbanua?
Yes.
Okay. And was that the context in which you became acquainted with her? Was through your brother?
Yes.
Do you know when they began seeing each other, your brother and Ms. Magbanua?
I have no idea.
Do you know when they stopped seeing each other?
I have no idea.
Do you know whether the relationship between your brother and Ms. Magbanua was a serious relationship?
I met many, many girlfriends of my brother's over the years. I didn't get any indication that it was a serious relationship.
Okay. He's a guy that has a lot of girlfriends.
He has had a lot of girlfriends.
How many girlfriends has he had since Catherine Magbanua?
I have no idea.
Several?
Probably.
And does he have a child with someone now?
He does have a child.
How old is your brother?
43?
Has he ever been married?
No.
Do you know whether your brother makes a practice of giving gifts to his former girlfriends?
I have no idea.
Are you aware of any specific gift he's ever given to a former girlfriend?
No.
Do you know Sigfredo Garcia?
No.
Have you ever met him?
No.
I want to ask you about the week prior to Mr. Markel's murder, like June 30th through July 10th, 2014. Were you in South Florida that week?
I know I was in South Florida for my father's 70th birthday. My dad's birthday is July 5th. I don't remember if his party was on his actual birthday or a little before or a little after, but I remember I went down for his birthday.
Can you tell the jury whether or not you were in South Florida on July 1st, 2014?
I couldn't say for sure.
Okay, but
I may have traveled that day. I don't remember exactly when I went down. I only remember I was there for probably about a week and then I went down for my dad's birthday, but I couldn't tell you more exactly than that.
Your dad's birthday's on the 5th?
It is.
What month?
Of July?
Was Mr. Markel planning to leave town the day after he was murdered?
I believe he was.
Do you know where he was going?
I believe he was going to New York to visit his girlfriend.
And how
To visit his girlfriend?
old was Mr. Markel when he was killed?
He was born in 1972, and he died in July of 2014 before his birthday's in October. He was 41.
41 years old.
Yes.
Did law enforcement in this?
Boy, a lot of emotion, right? When she's talking about her ex-husband. That's, of course, sarcastic. No emotion whatsoever. And she has to calculate that out. I just don't understand why she doesn't know that. She clearly knows that. I don't understand what that bit of calculation was about. How she thought that would benefit her. If you understand what that's about, let me know. But anyone who's died in my life, I tend to remember how old they were. And I don't have to think, if you know what year they were born, then you have to, because you're always asked, well, how old were they? How old were they when they died? How old? Even tragedies like this, or when they're made to happen, people want to know. So I don't really understand what she thinks she's going to achieve or what she wanted to achieve lying about it.
This case, analyze your cell phone.
I gave them my cell phone.
Okay. And in your cell phone, you have some contacts for Donna Adelson, Harvey Adelson, and Charlie Adelson, as well as Gibbers, who we've established as Dan Markel. Are all the phone numbers in your phone for them accurate phone numbers for those folks?
I would imagine so.
And I want to ask you about some recorded phone calls that were taken in association with this case. Did you have an opportunity to review a disc of some of those phone calls?
I did. The phone calls weren't played.
I'm sorry, hold on just a minute.
Yeah.
All right, so I provided you with a disc, correct?
Yes.
And a list of the specific phone calls and the voices on the specific phone calls that I was asking you whether you could identify.
Yes.
All right. And did you initial next to the letters of those calls that you were able to identify?
I did.
Okay, I'm going to approach and show you State's Exhibit 175.
I just wanted to clarify that we didn't listen to the phone calls from beginning to end for each one, but that we were able to listen to parts of the phone call so that we could authenticate who was speaking on the phone call.
Okay, when you say
Wow, she couldn't wait to get that out. And that's the same story she told in Charlie's trial, that she was just listening to know who was on the wiretaps, and she wasn't interested at all in the content of the call because, of course, it implicated her mother, her brother, and, of course, Katie. She doesn't care about Katie. She cares about herself the most, but it gives her a good excuse as to why she knows nothing. She testified laughably that she didn't even know who her brother was indicted with in this murder, who he was said to have conspired with in this murder. It is absurd. I am going to leave it here for today. Hopefully we can pick it up soon, because it's just an incredible bit of testimony by Wendi Adelson, who I hope is next. Of course, we're going to wait for Donna's trial, which will be amazing. What a great trial that will be. Do you think Donna will take the stand? Let me know what you think in the comments. I would think she wouldn't. Donna seems to know that silence is her best defense in this. And you can hear her often on the wiretaps trying to avoid talking about anything. And I would think she knows to keep her mouth shut. And in her short bond hearing, and you know that judge she had, Judge Mindy Glazer, she is a character. We picked that out right away, asking Donna Adelson's judge whether or not she had been on her plane flight in Florida. But of course, there's all sorts of compilations on YouTube with Judge Mindy Glazer of her presiding over a case of someone she went to middle school with, and the defendant starts, or the accused, my apologies, starts crying. So that became a big video, went viral. There's another video where she recognizes someone, defendant, who she's acting as judge for in his case. She recognizes him from her cruise. So obviously she likes to travel. She likes to talk. She's very sympathetic, emotional kind of judge. And boy, was she not ready for Donna. Stony silence, and her judge looked horrified when she was asked whether she was on the plane. But check out, there's like top 5 Mindy Glazers, Judge Mindy Glazer's hits. So what a great pairing, Mindy Glazer and Donna Adelson. Have a great night, everyone. I will see you back here real soon. Please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Very important. My rating has seemed to drop significantly since reporting on a certain man whose wife has quote unquote, has gone missing. So please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. I'll see you back here next time. Have a great night, everyone.